Good evening. This is the Dolores County Broadcasting Network. I do have a little bit of an update from the Jets. They're already talking about how they're now going to compete with the New England Patriots, and I even saw one writer, sports writer for the Jets, talking about next year's draft. So I don't know. I mean, what this team has to do is maybe win a game for a change. That might be helpful. Isn't that something that could be a pretty good idea? Just win a game. Don't worry about all this other nonsense. And then, of course, get all your other players signed, and so we'll see. Training camp starts in about 2 months, and we'll see what happens. And free agency is still going on too. So, and with that, the DCTV 4HTV news program for May 6th, 2019. The camera person is Cowboy Harrison. Video engineer, sound engineer, and producer is Edward. Teleprompter and prompter is Dan. News anchor and meteorologist is Hannah. Again, I would die without my iPhone, Faulkner. And this is your news director, Dan. And now the news.
Welcome to the DCTV 4-H Kids Evening News Show. Help keep our kids' news show on air by becoming a sponsor. You can buy a sponsorship by calling 970-677-4119. That's 970-677-4119. Now for the news. Hi, I'm Hannah, and our first story today is from the Durango Herald. Gold frames on traffic lights have a colorful history. Could gold rims be the latest sign of an apocalypse? You can practically hear the malcontents muttering. Malcontents. First of them, realtors say the streets are paved with gold. Now progressives are putting up a fancy new frames to match. Yep, it's Agenda 21 at work, caused by chemicals, chain migration, and the Durango City Council. Okay, that wasn't fair or nice. Now what happens when action line is given to the green light is for red-faced buffoonery. Let's get back to the question. What's new and improved with traffic signals outlined in golden yellow? Plenty. The new installment frames are reflective, thus each traffic light will appear outlined. That may not seem like a big deal unless you're colorblind. According to the National Eye Institute, as many as 8% of men and 0.5% of women of Northern European ancestry have a common form of red-green color blindness. If you have color vision problem and drive at night, how can you tell if traffic light is red or green? In the daytime, people with color blindness can easily compensate, determining stop or go based on the position of the illuminated dot. But in the darkness of the night, it can be difficult or impossible to distinguish whether or not it's the top light red or bottom light green. With a reflective frame around each eye, each light, it puts the traffic signals context, giving drivers with color blindness the ability to immediately tell what color the traffic light is, based on the place within the frame, said Mike McVaughn, Regional Transportation Director of the Colorado Department of Transportation. Thus, frames are a great improvement that will help thousands of people across the state and millions of people nationwide. Mike pointed out that reflective frames are now part of the manual on uniform traffic control devices, the standard for all dots across the country. The situation with color blindness was recognized, so these upgrades are happening on a national level, Mike said. Here in Durango, crews add the frames during each signal improvement production, such as the ongoing work in the U.S. Highway 550 through the town. A recent drive up North Main showed the most of the traffic lights have new reflective frames. If you were curious about different forms of color blindness, check on this really interesting outline simulator for various forms of the condition. Visit tinyurl.com/colordgo. As you can see, color blindness is neither a black and white situation. It is 50 shades of gray, nor is it 50 shades of gray. In fact, we shouldn't call it blindness at all. The better phrase is color vision deficiency. But some will turn a blind eye towards that description, claiming that their sight clouded by political correctness. So much for the color commentary. Let's just thank CDOT and others for seeing the light and helping to make night driving easier and safer. A story is from the Durango Herald. How do big rig truckers drive downhill on I-70? Before you've rolled out of bed, Jesus Torres has probably driven Loveland Pass twice. The hazmat trucker driver for Dixon Bros, a Wyoming-based trucking company with offices in Denver, wakes up at 1 a.m. and is on the road well before dawn. On a sunny day last week, Torres drove the stretch from Silverthorne to Denver, the last leg of his trek from the metro to the Summit County and back, with one reporter in the cab. The idea was to see firsthand the main artery of his travels, Interstate 70, from the trucker's perspective. In recent weeks, that stretch has drawn scrutiny after a runaway big rig caused a dead pile-up in April on I-70 in Jefferson County. The trucker Rago Larzo Aguilera Menderos was allegedly going more than 80 miles through the foothills before his truck borrowed into traffic and caused 4 fatalities. He faced more than 40 charges related to the crash, including 4 counts of vehicular homicide. Torres said the truckers in the area are fixated on the accident and have discussed what could have caused it. The stretch of I-70 from Silverthorne to Denver is particularly treacherous with tight turns, steep climbs, and sharp descents. Torres estimates he's driven it all at least a couple thousand times in a year alone, and worries about the training other drivers receive before facing it. When I started driving, I explained to my boss that I didn't have any experience driving semis in the mountains, and they told me, "Well, we will train you," Torres said. He learned the ins and outs of mountain driving since then, including mastering the use of engine or Jake braking that can help regulate speed and reduce wear and tear on surface brakes. It takes about a month for me to learn the basics, he said, and after that it took a while. I'd say at least a year before I felt comfortable. The driver in I-70 crash worked for a Texas company. His lawyer, Rob Corey, couldn't confirm if Aguilera Menderos had experience driving on steep grades, although he did have experience driving in Colorado. I-70 is extreme weather, high elevation, and steep grades make it more complicated driving than other parts of the U.S. interstate system. Colorado is unique in that way, said Colorado Department of Transportation spokeswoman Tama Rillison. She said it's important for out-of-state motorists, including truckers, to get familiar with Colorado's terrain before they drive here. Sometimes a steep grade doesn't seem to be steep, especially as you're heading back on the eastbound side of I-70 coming down the mountains into Denver, she said. Torres said that stretch from Jesse to 470 is the most difficult set of miles to drive on the way to Denver. It's also where Aguilera Menderos was seen picking up speed. "You should know that you've got to slow down here," she said as we passed signs warning of steep grades and sharp curves. Torres worries some truck drivers don't pay attention to those signs. "I do believe that some people don't really get the picture of it," he said. especially with semis or drivers from out of state that have been in this area before, have never been in this area. Torres said he has passed no judgment on the driver in the I-70 crash, and an investigation is underway, but until that is published, many facts aren't known yet. And he said that there are too many things that could have gone wrong with anyone. In the end, it's just perilous stretch of perilous stretch of road. It could have happened to anyone. It could happen to a guy from New York, California. He said, it could happen to me. The story is from the Journal. Local Red Cross chapter to install freak smoke alarms in Cortez. A local Red American Cross chapter plans to install free alarms in Cortez and seeks volunteers to help. The sound of the alarm event is part of a national effort to reduce fire-related deaths and injuries across the county. This is the first year that Cortez has participated, and it will take place on May 11th. According to the Red Cross website, the organization responds to the average of 62,000 disasters every year, most of which are home fires. Every day, the organization reports 7 people die and 36 people are injured from home fires that cause $7 billion worth of property damage every year. Many of the casualties occur in homes without fire alarms. The Red Cross reports those impact children and the elderly. In 2014, the Red Cross launched the Home Fire Safety Campaign with the specific goal of reducing fire-related deaths and injuries in the U.S. by 25%. Tangential to this campaign in the South Alarm, which focuses on bringing smoke alarms to at-risk neighborhoods. Nationally, for Sound the Alarm event, Red Cross is looking to install 100,000 free smoke alarms April 27th through May 12th. Cortez was selected as a participant out of the list submitted by the American Red Cross of Western Colorado, which covers 27 counties in the western half of the state. Cortez was chosen in the southwest and Clifton as the northwest, and Dick Simmons, a community volunteer leader who lives in the Mancos Valley. So far, Simmons said, since the campaign began, over 4,000 alarms have been installed in western and southwest Colorado. Last Monday, Simmons and Eric Meyer, executive director of Western Colorado chapter, met with Cortez Fire Chief Jay Balfour to decide which Cortez neighborhoods were in the greatest need of smoke alarms. They decided to focus on canvassing efforts in the mobile home parks along the East 7th Street by the old high school site. I know that there are more areas, not just the mobile home parks, that could benefit from the STA effort. By focusing on this area really provides them the most potential for saving lives, Simmons said. They aim to install 100 to 150 smoke alarms on May 11th, as they will be going door to door and no sign-up is necessary. On May 11th at 9 a.m., volunteers are invited together at the Cortez Fire Department on 34th and North Washington Street, where Red Cross representatives will talk about fire safety and the installation event before the participants are sent out of the campus in teams of 3 and 4. Besides the installation of smoke alarms, we will be providing information on how to make this home safer and how to be safe should there be a home fire, Simmons said. The alarm installations will happen on 2 p.m., at which time volunteers will return to the fire station on Washington Street for a barbecue. For more information or sign up to volunteer, visit the event website or contact Simmons via email at dix.simmons@redcross.org or by phone at 560-3968. Stories from the Denver Post. Recent sightings of mangy-looking wildlife raised specter of ghost moose in Colorado. Recent sightings of the moose with mangy silver-white blotches on their normally dark coats have people wondering if the ghost moose phenomenon has spread to Colorado. A recent spot of KUSA channel by featured channel featured a photo of a viewer of two of the rough-looking creatures. Spend some time in Colorado's outdoors this time of year and you might come across a ghost moose, said anchor Kyle Clark said. Denver Post photographer Helen H. Richardson spotted two moose near the Netherlands with the same kind of discolored coats. Colorado Parks and Wildlife staffers say moose might be shedding their winter coats, or they could be infested with winter ticks, which can drive the big gondoli creatures to rub against trees to the point of losing their dark brown hair. However, CPW researcher Eric Bergman said Friday that Colorado isn't experiencing that kind of infestations that have stressed moose populations in other parts of the country. From Maine to Minnesota, people have reported growing problems with ticks gloaming into moose by the tens of thousands. The tick off by the National Wildlife Federation of Climate Change said the animal rubs against trees and uses its hooves and teeth to try to get rid of the pest, exposing its white undercoat and skin. These beleaguered beasts have been given the pitiful name ghost moose. With warmer winters, ticks are devastating New Hampshire's moose population. Infestations of winter ticks in some areas have become worse because shorter, warmer weather and early snow melts increase the animal's length of exposure to the insects, according to the wildlife researchers. The bugs hitch a ride on the fall and stay until the spring when they drop and lay their eggs. Moose calves are more anemic as more of the bloodsuckers latch on, while adult moose become weaker and more susceptible to disease and predators. Winter ticks don't bother with people and don't cause as many problems for deer and elk, possibly because the animals groom themselves more than moose, according to the wildlife biologists. In Colorado, Bergman said there are a number of reasons moose have discolored coats. It could be because of ticks, but the animals are also shedding their winter coats, which now leaves them looking ragged. It's pretty much the natural course of things. Moose have evolved to go through this, and it's a pretty efficient strategy for them to tolerate a wide range of climatic conditions throughout the course of the year, Bergman said in an email. Some moose in Colorado do not get infested with ticks, but the number of animals that have problems is low compared to other states, Bergman said. The insects aren't a threat to the moose population like they are in other parts of the country. Moose weighing 800 to 1,200 pounds, standing up 6 feet, up to 6 feet at the shoulder, and are Colorado's largest hoofed wild mammal. Although they're a big draw for wildlife watchers, moose were rare in the state until just a few decades ago. Wildlife biologists started releasing moose from Wyoming and Utah near Walden in North Park and later in southwest Colorado to build the numbers. Now there are about 3,000 moose in Colorado and continue to expand the range, occasionally wandering into the Front Range communities and leading to more run-ins with people. Now for dumb laws. Our dumb laws segment are actual laws still in many books, cities, and municipalities. This means that these laws are technically still legal. Dumb laws in Wyoming are all new buildings that cost over $100,000 to build must have 1% of funds spent on artwork for the building. If one is drunk in a mine, he or she shall land in jail for up to a year. Drunk dealers may not make any business transactions with drunk persons. You may not take a picture of a rabbit from January to April without an official permit. Skiing under the influence of alcohol is prohibited. It is illegal to wear a hat that obstructs people's view of in a public theater or a place of amusement. Using a firearm to fish is strictly forbidden. Any person who fails to close a fence is subject to a fine up to $750. It is illegal for women to stand within 5 feet of a bar while drinking. In Cheyenne, it is illegal to spit on the steps of a school. Now for the weather report. Our weather data comes from the DCTV weather station located in the beautiful downtown Dove Creek. The current temperature is 67 degrees. The high for today was 69 degrees. The low was 47 degrees. The barometer is at 29.62 inches and is falling. Humidity is at 18%. Wind is between 1 and 8 miles per hour from the northwest. Gusts have been up to 28 miles per hour. There were hundreds of an inch of moisture today in the DCTV weather station. Moisture for the month is 49 hundredths of an inch. Moisture accumulation for the year is 6.45 hundredths of an inch. Now for the big map, courtesy of the National Weather Service. In California, there is rain and thunderstorms with a small area of rain mixed with snow. California. In Nevada, there is rain and thunderstorms. This is really hard to see. Rain mixed with snow is in Colorado, stretching around to South Dakota. South Dakota. And rain and thunderstorms from Texas to northeastern side of the country. Texas. There is a severe thunderstorms, flash flood in Kansas, and flash flooding in Texas. Texas. Here is our exclusive DCTV 5-day forecast. Tuesday, thunderstorms, high 64, low 39. Wednesday, thunderstorms, high 58, low 39. Thursday, rain showers, high 57, low 41. Friday, thunderstorms, high 57, low 39. Saturday, thunderstorms, high 59, low 39. Now for the snow total report, which is the amount of snowpack in the mountains across the state. We hope it will be helpful for our farmers and our skiers. Statewide, the snowpack is at 100% of normal. Here in the Southwest, we only have 153% normal. Point to the numbers on the map. Oh my. Wrong way. Now for the climate change report. CO2 carbon dioxide is considered a greenhouse gas and was one of the principal causes of climate change. CO2 traps heat in the atmosphere, which causes climate instability. This results in significant variations worldwide of moisture and hot and cold temperatures. But the general climate trend is the planet is slowly warming. Therefore, it is important that we report the CO2 we exchange. The following CO2 numbers in parts per million. Last week, 414.32. 2 weeks ago, 413.77. Last year, 409.84. 10 years ago, 390.36. 50 years ago, 327.34. Thank you, Dr. Peter Tan, the National Oceanographic Administration, and Michael McGee of the CO2.Earth Network for providing this information. Remember, you can help keep our kids' new show on air by buying a sponsorship. To become a sponsor, just call 970-677-4119. That's 970-677-4119. Thank you. Now back to your news director.
That is the end of today's DCTV 4-H Evening News Program. This is your news director, Dan, saying good night and thank you for watching.